So hi everyone, my name is Una Regino and I'm a graphic designer. I will share with you today my experiences and work as a Filipino immigrant designer. So um, where's my mouse? In my own migration story, I moved to Canada from the Philippines at 20 years old to study design at Concordia. And in my undergrad, there were a lot of pivotal moments that led me to be the designer that I am today. Towards the end of my undergrad, I decided I wanted to be a designer of service. In doing so, one of the ways I wanted to work towards that was to make a conscious effort to share my skills to the Filipino community, whichever way that may be. Looking back, there was some key moments in my undergrad as a design student where coping with and reflecting on the culture shock, the homesickness, and my Filipino identity led me to where I am today. So one speculative project I did in 2018 in class was a visual commentary on the skin whitening industry in the Philippines. As a person with colonized history that is also from a country where our beautiful and diverse range of skin colors is linked to our economic status, advertisements like these were an everyday image that persisted on billboards, magazines, ads, and TV commercials in my childhood. A study by Roger Lee Mendoza from California State University on the skin whitening industry found that a majority of Filipinos who continue to use skin whitening products come from low-income groups to achieve aesthetic appeal with the hopes of improving economic opportunities, class affiliation, and social networking. So I reflected on our use and marketing of skin whitening through an enlarged packaging of skin whitening soap. Behind the soapbox, I instruct the hypothetical user to use the soapbox daily to deny yourself of your ethnic heritage. I point out the well-known and complicated relationship of the Filipino identity. The semantics behind the words convey these deeper meanings, which are important to me as a Filipino designer. As one, I want to bring attention to the intimate use of such products that have more agency, history, and influence on our lives that people tend to forget and blindly accept. Having lighter skin is still an overwhelming preference in numerous industries in the Philippines. Colorism is a result of our history and as racialized and colonized peoples. And it was a way of thinking that greatly affected me as a child. And it was something that I had to unlearn after moving to Canada. So I continued this reflection on colorism and confusing identities with another speculative work through Crayola's product of multicultural crayons. As a child, I remember using the peach crayon for skin colors because at the time it was called flesh. In this work, I focus more on how, as a designer, we can become part of a system that helps perpetuate harmful beliefs consumed by the public, like in packaging design. You know, objects are a reflection and desire, a story and a statement. It became clear to me then that design's role is not just for aesthetics and function, and that there's a moral purpose as well, and that each design put in place has a complicated history that is more than just business as usual. My mentality then as a designer began to solidify, and I strive to become not only intentional in my work, but to also honor the diverse identity of where I come from and of the people around me. So then, after that, I became the studio graphic designer of a research creation lab in Concordia called Aboriginal Territories in Cyberspace, or AbTech. They are an Indigenous-led lab that ensures Indigenous presence in online spaces, whether that's through the web, video games, exhibitions, and films. Through these different multi-mediums, they ask the question, what futures do they want to imagine and then create for Aboriginal communities? And my time there was a learning moment for me, you know, because as my relationship with my Filipino identity began to deepen, I am very grateful to AbTech. The conversations and projects about Indigenous communities, their sovereignty, and their dreams of the future became something that was in line with my own decolonization process as a new Filipino immigrant and has helped me, sorry, there was one more right there. It has helped me shape the importance of creative mediums and tools that allow us to express our identity that addresses our past, present, and future in a genuine, positive way. It gave me a space to refine my design process that fosters community, acting in service with others through graphic design. And it wasn't long till I was able to do just that. As a freelancer, but also as a queer Filipino, I've had the pleasure of doing logo work for 2 initiatives in Montreal that foster community in Filipino and Asian LGBTQ spaces, like in Filipinos of Montreal and Rainbow Noodles Montreal. It was during this time I can say that my design style began to form as well. I tend to lean towards more of a clean, balanced, but bold design style, but I also like utilizing adjectives and asking my clients what adjectives we can use to describe the personality of the project. Aside from mood boarding and getting inspiration from other artists and designers, there's also something about the power of words that lights something up in my brain. It helps to solidify and weave the story of these folks who created these organizations, businesses, groups, because of their personal histories. Each person has their own story to tell. It's also my way of making sense in my head and to form the visual narrative through typography, color, shape, etc. And I guess this penchant for visual narratives grew bigger, more than just creating logos. I love building a brand and visual identity. I remember sharing this draft of the Shopal brand actually to fellow panel presenter Denise and reading about how the Shopal logo is a nod to 70s type design and how the color palettes are lifted from the chairs at Plamondon Station. A big part of the story of Shopal was that we wanted to honor the narratives of the Filipino community in Montreal, who many of them began to settle in the city around the 70s because of political and economic hardship in the Philippines. These works and a few other works of mine are done as I was beginning to build my freelancing business. I didn't think I'd become a freelancer at this age, to be honest with you. I'm still quite young, but because I have folks in the community who believe in me, and I was able to share my graphic design skills to the community. And it's honestly been a pleasure because being a designer was my way of gaining back the community that I lost after moving to Canada. I moved here with my brother without the rest of our family. So to have found the community through the Filipino Student Club of Concordia was really helpful for me, even just as a human being. So I am learning now that my identity as a Filipino immigrant is intrinsically tied to my work. And I am led by our desire for social connectedness, our love of color and story. And also for me personally, I enjoy seeing in real time how color, typography, and imagery gets people excited and energizes them to pursue their goals. But most importantly, I hope that in the long run, with the work that I do with the Filipino community, it gives more folks the permission to be themselves instead of hiding who they are. So yeah, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. If I can just go to my last slide, though I can't. Yeah, salamat, merci, thank you. Don't be a stranger here on my socials and my website. Thank you for listening.